that's the thing that I try to say. Like the stakes should be more equal. Like if you are working with friends and none of you are making money, then hell yeah.
Yeah.
Like pour yourself into
Yeah.
things that aren't transactional and where what you get paid isn't actually determining the value of your work, because
Totally.
that's certainly not a world that we all want to live in. But we do all need to pay the bills,
Yeah.
and exposure isn't going to do that.
No.
It's going to come close to doing that.
What's good, y'all? Welcome back to From the Kitchen Table, the show where I'll be talking to interesting people and we have interesting conversations, and I am really excited about my conversation today. I am joined by Braydee Euliss. Braydee, thanks for joining me.
I'm so glad to be here with you.
To kick us off, I was wondering if you could just share a little bit more about yourself for folks who may not know who you are.
Yeah, totally. Born and raised in Indiana, up in Muncie. I studied sculpture at Ball State and have, I think, been really lucky to figure out how to orient my life around the arts as
Totally.
an adult in Indiana. And I think early on after graduating, I realized that I was much more interested in, I had been building things with like wood and found objects. And then I started to be more interested in how to maybe like make the relationships that I had and the kind of like trust that I had with the community in Muncie to open up new opportunities for artists to do things that
Sure.
they didn't have invitations to do. And that was kind of like it just hooked me. And so now I feel like I build things with like people and grant dollars instead of like wood and found objects, which is a lot less lonely,
Okay.
and a lot more, I don't know, I think like meaningful for communities and for artists specifically. So I run Companion. It's a gallery that is based in my home usually, but that lets us be in other offsite locations pretty easily, and work primarily with Indianapolis-based artists, but always trying to build more like connective tissue between them in the city, but then also with artist communities and markets in other cities. And that's just kind of always what I'm doing, whether it's with Companion, the gallery, or for clients. A lot of people may know that I helped kind of led curatorial and sales efforts for the first 3 Butter Art Fairs, and do some other projects in town that aren't my own. But Companion is where it's at for me right now.
That's where your heart is.
That's where my heart is.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, first off, thanks for sharing that. And do you still like sculpt and woodwork and do your own thing when you have time?
I have sometimes, yes, when I
Okay.
have time. That was a good qualifier. I mostly maintain a jewelry practice.
Okay.
So I have a studio. It's a mess all the time. So just for any artists listening, your studios are supposed to be messy. You work in them, they're workspaces. So that's pretty infrequent, but jewelry is kind of the right sized personal creative practice for me. It doesn't require a lot of space. It's something that is a little bit easier to share
Sure.
with people than, large 3-dimensional sculpture work. So every now and then, yeah.
Sure. Before we kind of start talking about this space and the current exhibition that we have going on right now, we started a new segment recently, and I was hoping that you might venture with me into the Dream Machine.
Ooh, yeah. Okay.
So the first question in the Dream Machine is, are you a sleepless dreamer or a dreamless sleeper?
Oh boy, that's a big question. Well, it's funny because let me tangent. I interpreted the first half of your question as like you're dreaming, your dreams play out in the real world. And because
Sure.
of that, like sleep, you're not sleeping a lot.
Kind of.
That has been very true for me
Okay.
lately. But in less busy times, I definitely do dream when I
Okay.
sleep.
Do
Yeah.
you are there any dreams that have been like really impactful for you throughout your life that that you remember that you're willing to share about?
Like nocturnal dreaming.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I was in high school, I had not necessarily like repeat exact same dream, but a repeat theme. And this is common, I've learned. Dreams where my teeth would fall out
Interesting.
in various ways, all horrible and gross. And it's the thing that I think got to be really like unnerving for me was that my teeth falling out of my mouth was really the least important thing that was happening in the dreams. Like these were crazy dreams,
Okay.
apocalyptic fireballs coming from the sky dreams, and my teeth are falling out of my mouth, and that's all I can think about.
Interesting.
Or just like crazy intense like interpersonal experiences with my family, and I have a tooth loose in my mouth and it's all I can think about.
Did you have like any like dental experiences at that time? That
Definitely middle school and early high
Okay.
school. But I think it like with dream interpreters, the what they think is the sort of deeper psychological thing going on, because it is a fairly common dream for people, is that you in your real life you are, because teeth are so much a part of how we communicate,
Sure.
how we articulate our needs, our desires, what's important to us, how we connect with people intellectually. That when you dream about losing your teeth, it's because you're really struggling in those parts of your life. And I do think that was very true for me when I was in high
Okay.
school. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm going to be thinking about that a lot.
Hopefully it doesn't mean that you're going to start having dreams about losing your teeth because they're not fun.
I feel like I have had dreams that were teeth related. I don't know if it was losing teeth, but
Yep.
definitely like something to do with my oral situation. But I do think now that you talk about it being like connected to communication issues or articulation, 100% have struggled with that my entire life, especially to articulate my own experience. So now I'm like, now I got to be going back and reflecting on this and what that might mean. Okay, last question for the Dream Machine. Taking it kind of out of the nocturnal abstract dreaming, I'm wondering if there's anything that you're currently dreaming about for yourself.
Ugh. Yeah. Um, I started Companion almost 5 years ago. And I think my dream is that it is work that I will continue to get to do for a really long time. Companion is structured sort of like a commercial gallery. And so how it is ultimately sustainable long term, so like into the future, into like dreaming about what that can look like, is really, it's sustained through art sales.
Sure.
And so I think my dream sort of for me, but also for the arts community and artists that live in Indy, is that that more and more people who are able to would sort of fall in love with art buying, and with filling their homes and their domestic spaces or their work spaces with original artworks, of any kind really, but it's always nice to be surrounded by like visual storytelling from the people that are in your community with you. I feel really lucky that I get to do that through the gallery. Even though I don't own these artworks, I get to
Sure.
live with them temporarily and share them with people. And I think it's a really sweet spot
Yeah.
to be in, and I hope that I get to be in it for a long time.
Totally. Well, I think like you talk about getting into this practice of curation and like setting up or like building galleries as like wanting to build the connective tissue between artists and other spaces, funding, institution, whatever it might be. And I feel like that's like it requires a lot of trust, I think, for other people to enter into a space and be like, here, here's my work.
Yeah.
Like, hang
It's
it up
very
on the wall.
it's
And
very vulnerable.
yeah, definitely.
Very
A very
vulnerable.
vulnerable thing.
Yeah. And I think that's I th- I think because I come to this work from an artist's perspective,
Sure.
I that piece of it is always really important for me. And I think that's one of the things that Companion does really well and maybe differently from some of the other more maybe institutional exhibition venues in town. Yeah, it's not it's like putting your heart on the wall
Totally.
for people to look at and to comment on.
Well, thanks for coming with me into the Dream Machine.
Yes.
Okay, you mentioned we've started to talk around the edges of Companion, started 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm interested, like, why the name Companion? Like, what's the origin of that?
I when I thought about how I would want to work with artists and what I felt like I was in a unique position to do with a gallery, it really was all based in this idea that I would be coming alongside the artists as somebody who has a studio background and knows how to make things and has had a lot of my own artist experiences with exhibiting my work, trying to sell my work, getting into galleries, and that the relationships would all be, well, first I guess that they would be relationships
Sure.
and partnerships, long term or short term, but that my role was to sort of complement what the artists were coming to Companion with. Everybody comes with a different set of skills and interests, and one artist may define success differently than another artist, and so I didn't want Companion to feel like a one size fits all engagement for artists. So Companion just felt like, and this was before I really knew anything about AI, so that like the word has a different cultural context now than at least I was aware of when I made that decision more than 5 years ago. But it just felt like the right word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it definitely makes sense in the relation to like why you do this work, but it feels really accessible, like in a way that I don't know that like other gallery names, like for whatever reason, like Museum of Modern Art name is coming to mind,
Yeah.
and I'm like, well, you have to be a specific type of artist, maybe, and maybe at a specific level to ever see yourself in there.
Yep.
But I think something like Companion, when I hear that, I feel like not only do I maybe have a chance to be a part of something like this, but also like I think you mentioned like doing art can be kind of lonely sometimes, and it feels like this is a communal thing as opposed to just being like, oh, my art is up on the wall and I'm still kind of by myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's real. I definitely wasn't interested in a name that felt institutional.
Sure.
The decision to start and run the gallery in the front room of my home was a very anti-institutional decision.
Absolutely.
And I found myself really kind of yearning for arts experiences that I wasn't finding in indie.
Sure.
And so it felt a little bit like, well, maybe I can try to create that, like, and share it with other people. And that even if it's sporadic, even if it's just a couple times a year, it's better than nothing at all.
Totally.
And then that like welcoming piece, that was really important too. I know a lot of people can be intimidated, not only as artists, but also as viewers,
Yeah.
as people who just want to experience and see more artwork. I think institutional spaces can be really intimidating. That's true for people in my own family. And so I just was, how can I kind of like to break down or like not play into those things? It's pretty common also for commercial galleries to be named after the gallerist, named after the
Sure.
person. The Braydee Euliss gallery is never going to happen. It's just not about me. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Sure.
And I think it is insofar as like I hold the things together to like make it a container that artists get to access and that people get to share. But yeah, it really was just like we're all in this together, or it's nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hearing you talk about it now, it makes me think about this idea that I've been learning about a lot over the last 6 years, I'll say, and it's just like the decentering of the self in like community work, but just in general. Like I think it's one thing to, feel empowered and to like do what you're supposed to do and do your own thing and pursue your passion and whatnot. But when it comes to like being in the world, like the world, like the old saying of just like the world doesn't revolve around you, it's kind of like in that same way of just like you said, it's not about me, it's about us, I think, in a way that I feel like we're getting further and further away from as a society.
Yep.
It's just, and especially with AI, you mentioned AI, like AI kind of recenters the individual, I think, because you're only having a conversation really with yourself and stolen voices.
Yep.
So like I love this idea of being like, we're gonna be the opposite of that. And not only are we gonna create the space, but we're gonna be very intentional about going in that direction.
Yeah.
It's so you asked me about creative mornings. We're recording this on the last Friday of June, and I went to the creative mornings this month. And the theme of the month was curate. The speaker today talked about how he has like a complex relationship with the word because curate can feel kind of exclusionary a little bit if you don't really know what it means, or if you have like especially like a really like arm's length relationship with it. And I noticed in the companion guidebook for coordinates of belonging that you list yourself as gallerist, which I really like. I feel like I was like, I don't even know if I've ever heard that term until I just read it here on the page. I'm interested in like how you feel about the word curate, especially as somebody who has just like this been your life's work a little bit, for at least for the last 5 years.
Yeah. I would say that I have been curating and by that I mean like organizing individual and group exhibitions with visual artists since 2011.
Okay.
I mean, I've been, yeah.
Yeah, you put in
been
well
in it
over your 10,000 hours then. So yeah.
Yeah. At various levels and intensities. But I have used and still do use the word curator
Sure.
to describe myself, depending on the context, right? Gallerist is sort of like I'm newly comfortable with adopting that, but Companion is a gallery and I am the one who runs it. And so gallerist encompasses all of those things.
Yeah.
The word curate, though, I am sure this was covered this morning, is about care. Curate, it comes from its root origins are care. And that's how I interpret the role. Like if you're a curator, you have a duty to care for the artists that you work with, the artworks that they make, that they trust you with, that you hope, in my case, to be able to find like new places for them to live, whether it's in people's homes or in museum collections. Yeah, it's all about care. It's about attention. It's about, and how can you use that trust that artists have with you, the relationships that you have with community, with other people who are really interested in stewarding artists' careers forward, or building new infrastructures for the arts in Indianapolis, because we all know we need more. And then how do you use that access to encourage people to pay attention to new things that they maybe wouldn't have paid attention to otherwise? I think that's so much of what curating is, and how I understand it in the visual arts world. But it is, like, over the past, I don't know, 10, 15 years, a word that has been like really absorbed by lots of other industries. Like, you can curate a playlist, you can curate a dinner party.
Yeah.
You can, and I think at its root, like purest form, it's all the same thing.
Sure.
It's paying attention, tending to how something is shared with other people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think, like, I love did not talk about the root being in care,
Yep.
but very much talked about, like, intentionality being a key part of curation. And so I really appreciate you sharing that, because that makes a ton of sense to me. And then I was thinking about all of the different ways that the word curate is now used. And then listening to you share right there, I was thinking about, it's so much more than just selecting a person or a piece to be a part of a thing. Like, you're talking about stewarding that individual or this group of people who not only are you selecting to be a part of the thing, but, like, you want to see it almost live and grow beyond the one place that, like you said, you want the art to maybe go into another space, a person's house. Definitely want it to be purchased, so that way we can support that artist. But even beyond just, like, the purchasing of the art, it feels like it's like the relationship goes so much further than just the selection process.
Yeah. It's studio visits, it's research, it's going to shows with the artists that you work with closely when they're exhibiting somewhere else. It's, I worked in a gallery and frame shop in Muncie for a decade, so I know a lot about framing, picture framing. And so I'm constantly giving people guidance about archival practices, preservation practices for framing, when it's appropriate to do that with artists. I'm happy to share that information, but it also goes in the other direction. When people are buying artwork, I can say, I would recommend framing it this way, or conservation clear glass. You want to make sure you have all acid-free materials, because it's not just the care for the work when it's, like, in my direct care.
Sure.
It's how can I make sure that as much knowledge as I have about how to sort of protect this artwork or the stories that it's carrying forward into the future. Usually, unless people are flipping artwork, which is a whole different conversation, usually people are buying artwork because they want to live with it for a really long time.
Yeah.
And artists aren't always really concerned with that. Permanence is, number one, not real, but also not always a priority in the studio.
Okay.
Because of certain economic circumstances, I think a lot of artists aren't in a great position to prioritize materials that are designed to last for a really long time. So then what can I do to share that information with anybody who is acquiring the artwork, and to make sure that they feel really well set up to take care of it I don't know, for decades,
Yeah,
truthfully, the rest of their life, hopefully.
totally. I feel like I've done a poor job of caring for some of the art that I've purchased over the years.
Happens to the best of us.
Yeah, but I'm interested because it's so interesting because I feel like I've never heard anybody talk about like this conversation for the purchaser, the artist viewer who wants to have this in their home, like somebody taking the time to just be like, "Hey, do we understand the level of care
Yeah.
required to make this last?"
Yeah.
You know, something that could last beyond even yourself and could be maybe something that your family has, your kids have. Is that like do you feel like people, once you have that, start having that conversation, they like are engaged in that understanding? Or I guess it may be subjective and fluctuates from person to person.
I think it's like a yes
Okay.
and no and sometimes kind of thing. I mean, I know a lot. I know too much probably about picture framing.
Sure. Sure.
And I know that I really appreciated learning as much as I did so that I could make smart decisions about the important artwork that I was bringing into my own life, or the artwork that I was making and asking other people to bring into
Okay.
their lives. And so I just try to make sure that people have as much information as they're interested in. And
Yeah.
sometimes that's more than what people want.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I feel like it also helps just because you're coming from, again, from that artist lens. Like you have this extra piece that you can really speak to as a person that creates as
Yeah.
well.
And I don't run a frame shop. I mean, I do probably have half a frame shop in my dining room, but I don't run a frame shop. I'm not making money off of framing. I'm not upselling people. I'm not incentivized by some like economic benefit for myself
Yeah.
give this advice. It just is like, FYI, if you don't know, these are some things to consider. And not every frame shop is great about giving that advice either.
Sure.
It just kind of depends. I think a lot of them assume that people don't want to spend an arm and a leg on framing
Sure.
and quality things.
But it comes back to care, I think.
Yeah, it
And
does.
and then I don't say that as like people who purchase art and don't do some of these things don't care. It's just like there's
What you don't
levels
know
to
what-
it.
You don't know what you don't know.
Sure,
That's all
totally.
it is.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I'm just trying to educate people sort of slowly, calmly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's again another facet of like being a curator or gallerist is like this education piece.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I don't know, maybe I don't know if it's a stereotype, but I feel like sometimes when I see like art portray or like galleries portrayed in pop culture, they're not always like educating. They might know about the work, but it's not. They're just like trying to make a sale.
Or a lot of at the sort of higher end, galleries really do benefit from sort of exploiting this exclusivity, air of exclusivity. And that is, so yeah, it's kind of, they operate often, if you know, kind of thing. And if you don't know, we don't have time for you.
Sure.
And that's not where Indies Arts community is. That
Okay.
doesn't serve that kind of an attitude doesn't really serve anybody here.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it affirms even further like the idea of companion, at least to me. Like because it is again doesn't feel exclusive. It feels accessible. It feels rooted in this idea of like this is kind of for everybody, even if it's not something that you can purchase yourself.
Yeah.
But it's like we're welcoming everyone in that wants to engage, that wants to be a part, and maybe again doesn't know, and providing not just something to look at and immerse yourself in, but immerse yourself to the point of having access to the knowledge and the education part of it.
Yep.
And I feel like you don't get that in a lot of spaces.
You don't.
Yeah. Even some spaces here in Indy. So
I know. It's hard. It takes a lot
yeah,
of work.
totally.
It's like a lot of capacity. And the arts kind of in general, we all know this, like underfunded,
yeah.
chronically underfunded. Not to get on my soapbox, but
Hop up there.
public funding for the arts in Indiana was cut by a third last year.
Yep.
And so the spaces that we do have that are making the most of what they have, are in some cases like really kind of struggling
Yeah.
with different funding streams. And that's like capacity is how you have time to have slow one-on-one conversations with people to figure out where they are, what they're curious about, how to share information, if it's just about artwork and the artists making it, or if it's about framing. It's like it's time, it's
Yeah.
slow, it's relational, it's not if those are the goals, if that's how you're trying to build community and like be in relationship with people around the arts, it's not a churn and burn kind of thing.
Sure. How do you navigate the capacity piece? Because I'm assuming that you don't just do this 24/7, 365. I'm assuming you have other things that take up some of your time.
Sort of. Well, like sleep sometimes,
Sure.
and it's nice to have a little bit of a social life.
Sure.
I feel really fortunate. I started Companion fall of 21, and that was the same year. That was the first year that Molly and Alan had
Okay.
invited me to be part of Butter. And so for the first 3 years of Companion, I worked on Butter. I was managing the regional arts partnership for the Indiana Arts Commission in East Central Indiana.
Okay.
So mostly grants administration work, and just some other like gig contract creative work, like a lot of us do. And so I found myself working really, really hard for other people to make enough money so that I could self-fund Companion. And after 3 years, I knew that I was not going to be able to keep
Sure.
up with that. And so I took kind of a major step back from the fun part, the programming part, the working with artists and doing shows and having openings, to really kind of think and problem solve deeply about what I wanted and what I needed to be able to move in that direction. I worked pretty closely with Eric Nolan, who has been doing a lot more of that sort of consulting with artists and creatives in town for a couple years, and ended up approaching the Central Indiana Community Foundation about a fiscal sponsor. They were open to it, which was great. And that meant that even though Companion is an LLC, that I could apply for grant funding and receive grant funding.
Nice.
It's a
Okay.
structure that, a lot of people use, artists especially,
Yeah.
will get fiscal sponsor relationships so that they can receive grants and go after funding for bigger projects. And so that was a really great experience. And then I decided that the first conversation that I probably needed to have was with the Herbert Simon Family Foundation. Locally, at least, I think that they are one of the most risk-seeking
Well,
funders.
okay. Sure.
A lot of times in the nonprofit world, the systems, the expectations, the hoops you have to jump through, there's this sort of underlying risk mitigation.
Yeah. Risk averse is how
Risk averse.
how my perspective on a lot of the space.
And I think that's fine, that it has its place.
Sure.
I understand it. But what I was asking for, I felt like was really risky, was really not conventional. And so I figured that I should start there. And if they weren't interested, I maybe needed to rethink the whole thing.
Sure.
And fortunately, they were interested. And so I have had funding for the past 2 years. The biggest thing that I think is different that I'm doing with Companion with that support is prioritizing honorariums for all of the artists that I work with. So all of the artists that do shows with Companion get an honorarium if they're in a group show, if it's a solo show, and then depending on the nature of the work, and what the engagement needs to look like, sometimes they also get production budgets, or I have money to commit to production expenses that make sense for the gallery to come alongside
Sure.
and help tackle. Again, it's like that partnership
Yeah.
thing. But I even though my goal is to sell work and long term that's the sustainability model for Companion. The gallery is nothing without the artists.
Sure.
There is no show to come to. Is no reason to open the doors. There is no reason to have a website or a social media presence without the artists and the work that they make.
Yeah.
And
You're just showing off your house at that point.
which I can just have people over for dinner. And all too often in nonprofit spaces, the artists are the last person to get paid. The caterer gets paid. The people taking out the trash get paid. Everybody gets paid before the artists get paid. And that is, it's time for that to change.
Yeah.
And if I can change that in some small way by having this conversation with you, but also having that conversation with the artists that I work with, and maybe like giving them a chance to like raise their expectations for how they're treated by institutions or galleries when they engage them to be part of shows. That's also the long game. That's a dream. Like if we can all just like advocate for each other and like raise the bar a little bit, then things will have to change.
Totally.
Yeah.
That feels like a really unique model.
Yeah.
Is that something that you've seen done in other places, or you feel like you're like, this is the pilot of this kind of program?
Well, offering artists honorariums to be part of shows is absolutely not a new thing. I did not invent that. Not at all. And I would recommend that anybody who's interested in more information about that spend time with WAGE, Working Artists for the Greater Economy. They have a really great website, and it's a national effort to standardize fair compensation rates for creatives who are engaged by nonprofits. And it's tiered. So there's like a floor level. If you're inviting somebody to do a solo exhibition, or you're bringing a performer in to do like commissioning a new performance, this is the minimum fee that they should be paid. And then obviously as the size of the organization grows and their annual operating budget increases, and the highest paid employee's salary increases, those rates go up.
Yeah.
They're in relationship with one another. So
as they should be.
As they should be. So I'm just kind of following WAGE's model. I've been familiar with their work for like 12 years now.
Cool.
It's something I believe really strongly in. And so it just feels like if you can't afford to pay the artists, you can't afford to do the exhibitions.
Right.
Especially if you're not if you're not prioritizing sales, if that's not like a real thing that you're trying to do well, and that's the only way that money can come back to the artist to help them sustain their own practice, it's just not a fair.
Totally.
This cards are stacked against the artists all the time. And so offering artist honorariums is definitely not new. I don't know that very many people in Indianapolis are doing it.
I've never heard of WAGE before, so I'm going to be looking into that. But that's
a tremendous resource. And if you are an artist, again, I'm just going to speak directly to anybody who's an artist that's listening to this conversation. You can pay $5 to have a WAGE membership. I pay $5. I have a WAGE membership, and that means that I have access to lots of tools and resources if I want to learn, but also if somebody invites me to, I'm not exhibiting work, but if somebody invites me to come speak on a panel or do anything like that, contribute writing. If you're an artist and somebody invites you to do a solo exhibition and you have a WAGE membership, you can literally generate a WAGE authorized invoice in their system and automatically send it to the contacts at the nonprofit institution that's inviting you in. And it has worked for me. I have been paid those rates where otherwise I absolutely would not have been paid those rates. So do that.
Definitely do. I'm going to start doing that.
Do that. I'm not going to probably be making very many friends in institutions with encouraging people to do that, but it's definitely worth looking into.
That's not a problem with you. That's a problem with the institution.
100%. And Yep. I don't, if that's a deal breaker for friendships and professional relationships, then that is an okay filter,
Yeah,
I think.
I agree.
But the operating as an LLC, lining up a fiscal agent and applying for funding so that I can, it's kind of like, I guess in the more corporate or startup world, it would be considered like runway
Sure.
funding, which was a new term to me when I started having these conversations
Okay,
with
yeah.
people, is really just to kind of help like subsidize companion while I grow into new capacities and adopt new systems and
Sure.
sort of like test what indies market can, where it can meet me,
Okay.
where it can meet the concept of a commercial gallery that isn't a big white cube downtown.
Sure.
And so that's been a really great, I feel like I'm like get to have my cake and eat it too a little
Yeah.
bit, which is a wild thing to be able to say
Totally.
um
In this economy?
in this economy. Yeah. And so it's one of those, like we've got a couple interns right here. They're getting paid more than I got paid
Okay, shout out to
until
paying our interns.
until I was running a nonprofit.
Yeah.
And so I think it's just really important. Like I do just these things, you don't build community off unpaid labor. If somebody's getting paid, everybody should be getting paid. And so companion,
Yeah.
I'm trying to do that where I can. And so it's not necessarily a model that I've seen the backside of anywhere else, but it's really just grown out of like being an indie for a long time, prioritizing the artist's perspective and knowing that what they need, they're not really getting very equitably here. And then like what if I'm going to ask for the most, if I'm going to shoot for the moon, what do we need? And in a way, it's like that's my version of like bearing my soul in a painting and hanging it up on the wall for people to look at, right? It's
Sure.
like I've packaged this idea about what companion can be and how it can serve the artist community, and then I'm sharing it with funders, people that, see the world, I think, somewhat differently than I do, and hoping that they will trust it, hoping that they will want to come alongside and be part of it. And I've had great partners, great thought partners, with the Simon Family Foundation. And I think that's why when we talked where we were in the dream
Yeah. The dream machine.
machine, I was going to say palace, and that's not where we were. Why we were in the dream machine, it's kind of like I know that like having that funding buffer isn't a long term. I can't count on that long term.
Totally.
Right. And so that's why I am in this, like, if I'm evolving my dream, if we're like in this metamorphosis phase, that's where I'd like to go. And so I feel like it's great to be able to talk about it because it's not something that's like super easy to be transparent about, or like that people want to read about on a website necessarily.
Sure.
But it is really important to talk about how these things function on the backside.
Yeah, well, and I think it's like a conversation that most institutions, and we talked about, I guess, like don't really care about the friendships of people who don't want to pay the people that do the actual work, but like it's a conversation that people are trying to actively like move away from, I think, in indie at least.
Yeah.
When it comes to how do we work together, I feel like it's so obscured how things work on the back end, and that's why so many people who do creative work in the city go without being paid. They do it in kind, or they do it in for exposure.
Which
and
is
it's like
a lie.
it is.
It's such a trap.
Yeah, 100%, because it's like if somebody is willing to do that or feels like that's the only way that they can get their foot in the door, it unintentionally slams the door shut on other people who are like, no, we need to get paid.
That's the other thing that I think is so important, that artists, it's really hard. If you've never thought about it, you've never thought about it. But like every time you say yes to a free thing, you are like undercutting the value of your peers
Yep.
who need to get paid. And not everybody is in the same financial position to say yes to low or no paid
Yeah.
work. Not that there's anything wrong with doing it, but I think having an understanding about like equal stakes in those engagements, like if the person asking you to volunteer your time is getting a paycheck, that's kind of fucked up.
Yes. Very fucked up.
Can we cuss on this podcast?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, great.
You can say whatever you want as long as it's not bigoted or intentionally hateful to a groups of people.
Yeah. I think that like, and that's the thing that I really, when I get to have these conversations with artists, usually more one-on-one, that's the thing that I try to say, like the stakes should be more equal. Like if you are working with friends and none of you are making money, then hell yeah.
Yeah.
Like pour yourself into things that aren't transactional, and where what you get paid isn't actually determining the value of your work, because
Totally.
that's certainly not a world that we all want to live in. But we do all need to pay the bills.
Yeah.
And exposure isn't going to do that.
No.
It's going to come close to doing that. And I just think that we're all desperate for things that feel like opportunities. We're all desperate to like be connected to new audiences and to share what we care about sharing with people in new ways, in ways that we think could translate into something bigger or paid. But I do think that as long as there are artists who are willing to do those things for free, I think the spaces that expect that will continue to be able to stay open and to bring in grant dollars for the other things that they do pay for.
Yeah.
And I just think we're really kind of overdue for a reckoning
Yep.
about that. And it's not an easy thing. If you're an artist, it's not an easy thing to speak out about, because
Totally.
people will blacklist you.
Totally.
You will lose the few professional relations you stand to lose. You're afraid to lose. I don't want to say you will, because that's not true. But it's a fear. It's a real fear. There's a lot of really just anxiety around, seeming ungracious.
Yeah.
And I think like culturally across the board, it's certainly not unique to indie.
Totally.
It's something that happens all over the place. And so, I'm just really interested in, I think we all need more transparent, honest conversations about those things.
100%. I love the framing of like calling it a trap, like this free work, because like the trap is manyfold. And I think one of it is that you're probably only like, they'll keep bringing you back, but they're never going to pay you. These people that you work with that are offering you this work. And then they're going to tell other places, other institutions, other organizations that need artwork or whatever creative work that you'll do this for free. So then you'll also not get paid.
Or there's just at that level, there's just enough of an understanding about like how this institution works or how this institution works. And if they worked with them, that probably means they did work for free. It doesn't even have to be people talking behind.
Yep.
Just it's like an understanding.
Yep.
If you're on the back sides of these things, you tend to know who's doing what and how they're making it happen. And so it's not even as like nefarious as people saying, well, they did this for me for free, so maybe they'll do it for you for free. And I think I've been vocal about that, like for myself, trying really hard, like curating and like working with artists and organizing shows is what I do. You want me to do that work with you because I'm good at it.
Right.
And that means I need to be paid.
Yeah.
I'm not a
Your
trust
gallery's
fund baby.
literally in your house. Like,
Dude, I'm trying to keep my overhead as low as I can.
yeah.
And so it just is something that, like, I've had people approach me and ask me about projects, and they'll say, well, now I know we need to pay you. And
Yeah.
I'm like, well, we also need to pay the artists. So let's worry about them first, like, especially for smaller projects. And so I'm just like, if I'm on a project and the artists can't get paid, I don't want to be part of that project.
Sure.
And so in small ways, hopefully that, like, is shifting how some of those, like, behind the scenes conversations are happening. But it's just not happening fast enough for where, like, how the pace that artists need and deserve.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, and we need organizations to take these bigger risks. And like, I feel like that's something I've been having conversations about for the last couple years at least, is just that at the end of the day, like, my example is always that the right is complaining about George Soros being this leftist billionaire funding all of these causes, and I'm like, where is he funding all of these things? Like, I don't see where any of this is happening, and I feel like, unfortunately, because of the system of capitalism that we live in, it is going to require somebody with a large amount of capital to just be like, here you go. But that's like a risk that, like you said, there's like mitigation already layered into that a lot of people won't go for. And a lot of it's because I need to be paid first.
Yeah.
I need to have this bonus made in first, and then other people
Whatever's
can
left.
get paid. Yes.
Yeah.
The crumbs that are left,
Yeah.
we can pass out and dole out.
And expect people to, like, be happy with.
Yeah, exactly. And then if you're not, we're going to label you as ungrateful. We're going to put you on these lists, these blacklists.
Yeah. That's the way that I was trying to find it earlier and I just couldn't. But the thing that I have found myself saying is, like, the artists are, rightfully so, afraid to bite the hand that feeds them scraps. Right?
Yeah,
That's brutal.
that is.
But there's so many, even if they're paid opportunities, they're underpaid by comparison to what the artist is expected to produce, show up, if they have to have insurance, how much that costs them. And a lot of times, even if there is an honorarium for some of these opportunities, artists end up on the other side like, man, that was a net negative for me. And I just don't know how. I think that's one of the reasons why I just felt really hamstrung and, like, stuck in those systems and those bureaucracies in other institutions. And so Companion felt like, even if what I'm doing is small and every now and then, at least it's honest.
Yeah.
And, like, I could stand behind the reason that I'm making these decisions. It feels a little bit more equitable. And then nobody can tell me. I don't have a board.
Totally.
I don't have a board. I don't have anybody who has never really done very much of this work, especially at the ground level most of the time with boards, to tell me how something should work or what the budget should look like.
Yeah.
Whether or not humans deserve to be paid for their labor.
Totally. Well, I think something, and we're gonna get to coordinates of long. I think
I could just talk about this.
I know now. I'm in it for sure.
Yeah.
But I think, like, a conversation. So when I started doing Conversation Piece, which is my other podcast, in studio, that was the first time I ever did an in-person show, and I wanted to work with a videographer and an audio person to make it, like, the highest quality project I could, and I wanted to pay those people to do that. And so I was paying out of pocket the whole time. And something I learned as I got enmeshed in that community is that, like, specifically for photo and video, like, a lot of people don't understand that is also labor. They think they're paying you just for the video or the photo that you take. No. They're not thinking about equipment cost or time on, moving everything that you have. And not even that, but just beyond, like, the 10,000 hours that you've already put into this to get to the level of where people are going to be like, oh, we want to hire this person to do this.
Yeah.
And I feel like when we can get institutions and the people that run them to understand that this is also labor.
Yeah.
Like if you pay someone to do contract work on your house, like it's that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's equivalent to that kind of labor. Like then
Except it's cultural. And we
exactly,
need it for
exactly,
humanity to
exactly.
survive.
Well, and we find ourselves in right now in the midst of like trying to rebrand the city, and it's like we don't need to invest in slogans. We need to invest in the culture of the city, the people that are already here,
That are already
not
here,
the people that
already
were
doing the
gonna
work.
visit here, like or the Super Bowls or the Taylor Swifts or
Preach.
whatever. Like we don't need to do that, and because if we invested in the people and the communities and the neighborhoods and the businesses that are already existing here in Indy, that will come. Because then people want to come back here. Nobody wants to vacation in Indy because there's too much lack of investment in the culture that's here.
Yeah.
And so instead of trying to be Speed City, like we should invest in the Naptown that has existed forever.
I agree 100%.
And is been pushed to the margins, but continues to exist in spite of
Yeah.
this marginalization.
Yeah. That's one of my biggest gripes too, is about, well, like in the art world, because that's just the corner of the city that I'm paying the most attention to. There's so much like 11th hour funding poured into arts programming as entertainment for sporting events, for guests, for
Yes.
tourists. And so much of it is, and I think there's some well-intentioned, like thinking behind the way those funds are administered. They want to engage as many artists as possible. That means that the funding amounts are watered down.
Right.
It means what is possible is watered down. And I just think like sometimes more is less.
Totally.
Sometimes less is more. And back to your point, like this is something that I've said that's specific to public art in the city and like investments in artists and artworks in the city. If the funding that's flows through the Arts Council for an all-star weekend or anything like that was invested in planned, we know when those events are going to be in town, plan for that funding investment 2-3 years in advance, have a real professional public art piece commissioned, installed, it's in place, and then it's here for the people that live and work in Indianapolis.
Exactly.
And you do that a couple times, and you don't have to like last minute art wash the city.
Yep.
So that it feels like a place that has this like rich, abundant culture for tourists. Like you make it happen for the people that are already invested.
Yeah.
And in, to your point, so many cases already involved in doing the work.
Yep.
And it will be here. I have a friend, she's an artist, but she's also like works really deeply with neighborhoods and communities about preserving their histories and sharing it in new ways with audiences. And she was in a meeting with somebody, I think with the city a few years ago, who said that, I don't know if it would have been like 30 years ago, like decades ago, when they were kind of like revisioning the sports corp stuff.
Sure.
Like, how do we rebrand, revision Indianapolis? Like, what can we do? One of the strategies for how they could attract and continue to attract conventions, sporting events, big concerts, all of that stuff was to keep Indianapolis like as much of a blank slate as possible, so that whatever personality or vibe needed to be laid over the city to accommodate and attract those events, those tourists, those concerts, those conventions, so that it was easier to do. I was devastated when she shared that. I was like, I had two reactions. First, that explains everything. That makes so much sense. And then it was this like really kind of brutal realization that like that's what's going on. Like that's what we're all actually up against. And I don't know how we shift that.
First off, that's one of the most insane things I've ever heard. And I'm like,
Isn't it crazy?
but it does, like, I agree with your first point. Like, that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Like, it may, like, now, especially because of the work I currently do and the organization I work for, like, I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, I understand now why we don't do any of this. Because it's basically mandated that we don't.
Yeah.
But I think, like, aside from the big risks that we need to take, I think one of the ways that we change that is with things like companion and installations and exhibitions like
Yeah.
Coordinates of Belonging.
Thank you for bringing it back around.
Totally. No. Like, I feel like, especially just a little bit of that I've got to experience before we sat down and had this conversation. I'm really excited to like come back and sit in here for like hours and really be able to immerse myself. Is that it kind of like we mentioned before? It's just like I feel like this exists in spite of that.
Yeah.
And like that is how we change. Even we and it because it's going to be like incremental change until that trillionaire person comes and gives us all the money to continue to make things like this.
Yeah.
Is by we just got to do it.
Yeah.
And it's not just because like it is like an individual, like personal, like, okay, I want to do this thing because it's needed. But again, it's not about the me or the I, it's about the we.
Yeah.
And it reaches so much further than just like your own individual center of gravity.
Yeah.
It really does feel like a earthly, like worldly, universal type of thing.
Yeah.
So I don't think we're sitting in your house right now.
I do not work here. No. No.
But I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about like, this is year 3, I believe, of Coordinates of Belonging, correct?
This is the third annual group exhibition for the summer solstice.
Oh, summer solstice. Okay, okay.
And has done.
Gotcha.
Yep. The title changes every year.
Okay.
So
Gotcha.
Gotcha. The title for the group exhibition is Coordinates of Belonging.
Okay.
And this is the second year that we have been in, like, fortunate enough to have an invite to be in the special place, which is an offsite location. And it just feels like a much more appropriate place to celebrate the summer solstice.
Totally.
My home is great, but this is much better.
Can you talk a little bit about this year's exhibition? Where we find ourselves, what you've collected and put together.
Yeah. The site that we're at is White River Farm. It's along the White River, obviously, between the Newfields area and Broad Ripple. So right in Indy, basically. Yeah. It's a historical farm. Originally, it was a 400-acre functional farmstead.
Okay.
And so today, it's owned by people who I think they've been working on the property, rehabbing the buildings, rethinking the grounds and their approach to the landscape for about 7 years.
Okay.
And with the goal for it to be an artist and writer's residency. It's still, that part of it is still really quiet and like in incubation periods. Our solstice show last year, Hold On to This Instead was the title for it.
Okay.
Was the first program out here that was open to the public. So it hasn't been used in that kind of way for very long at all. And last year we were out here because we were kind of guinea pigs and it was a new territory for everybody kind of. We just committed to 3 days. So we had a long weekend exhibition. It went over great. People had a wonderful time. We sold artwork. And so I asked if we could come back this year, yes. And then I asked if we could be out here for a month, and they said yes. So last weekend, we did some opening weekend events, a reception, a couple programs. We're here through July 19th. And Coordinates of Belonging is the title is a phrase that's used in the teachings of someone that I've been following for a couple years. Leah Veen, she's based in Australia, and talks a lot about the difference between meaning and belonging and relationships in Indigenous cultures compared to what's more conventional in the lives of people who have lived either their own life or come from a long line of people who have lived under colonial or capitalist systems. And there's just something about the way that the language that she uses, the frameworks that she talks about and then can diagram, like as a visual thinker.
Yeah.
Her work has really inspired me in some dark times the past couple of years when I think a lot of the other information that was coming my way was harder for me to be hopeful about how as one person I can make a small difference.
Sure.
How as one person I can, without uprooting myself and like living in a different country, or like what I have access to and how to start with that. And so she talks a lot about the field, and like the field is, we all have our own fields. The field is the land that you live on, the land that your bloodlines have lived on, the relationships that you have with elders in your life, the stories that are passed down, the dances that are passed down, the visuals, the materials, the food, the all of it, and how that field for people who come from indigenous cultures is like very rich, very
Sure.
robust. And for people like me who have lived in the United States for a long time, come from, I think I've been doing some ancestry research. I think going back almost 4 full generations on both sides of my family, my relatives have lived in Indiana, which is an
Dang.
insane thing.
Yeah.
And it's insane. So there's a lot. There's what is my culture? What is my field comprised of? Your field is comprised of these coordinates of belonging. And capitalism and colonialism sort of persist through an erasure of those coordinates. And so it makes sense that a lot of us feel really lonely, or like we don't have agency, or like we need to have relationships with artificial intelligence,
Sure.
or all of those things. And her work really kind of like spells out those differences, and like how encourages people to, like, if they feel like they're like suffering from that erasure and they don't know what to hold on to, there's nothing there for them, how to have agency over making your own meaning, and encourages people to like do ancestry research, connect with your bloodlines, like where is there meaning there that you're proud to hold on to, and like let the rest go if it's probably a lot of it's not good.
Sure.
And then to think about your present, like how are you moving through the world in your present relationships, like with your time, with the people that you spend your life with. How are you making new coordinates of belonging? And then how can you, when you think about what you want to carry forward, when you think about the world that you hope to leave behind, when you think about what the youth will inherit from you, or the changes that you made while you were alive, what are those things? And those can be your coordinates of belonging. And you can regenerate your field with things that feel authentic and that you're proud to be in relationship with. I think that artists, anybody with a creative practice, so many people are already doing that, whether they are using that language to describe it,
Totally.
or those frameworks or those diagrams to think about how it functions in their life, in their creative practice. But I think that really, I just couldn't let it go. I kept going back to it when I needed to, and when I thought about what I wanted to sort of like pour myself into to organize the show, the conversations that I would feel really good about inviting people into. Coordinates of belonging was the concept, was the direction. And so there are artists in this show, visual artists, but then also we're recognizing all of the land-based practitioners who are contributing to the programming. Most people would separate those groups institutionally.
Sure.
Maybe be separated. But they're as much a part of the whole of the exhibition as like Rebecca Nolan, who has paintings on the wall behind us, or Lalana Federshak, who has gorgeous porcelain white bunnies scattered throughout the exhibition.
All right.
And so it just was, who are the artists that like are already in Companion's field, artists that I've worked with and done solo shows with, or they've been part of multiple group shows. How can I bring them together and then extend invites to other people who have ties to Indiana, but maybe don't live here anymore? Seneca Weintraut has a really sweet collection of oil and encaustic paintings in the barn. He's from Mount Vernon, Indiana. I know him from my time at Ball State. He's based in Philadelphia now.
Okay.
So let's bring his work back. Like so much of his lived experience in Indiana is what informs his work. Let's bring his work back to Indiana. Maura Jasper, who is, spent a ton of years living in New York City, Boston, is in Troy, New York now, teaching at Skidmore, has a 38-minute video piece also installed in the barn. It's a piece that she made in collaboration with her mom. And so just trying to think about how are artists exploring sort of like rediscovering, rebuilding their own coordinates of belonging, like in their own lives, and then how is that present in their work? And then I think across the spread of the exhibition, we've got 17 artists and land-based practitioners who've contributed. There's like the bodies of knowledge that are being shared is like so varied and like dense. It's really, it feels weird to talk about a show that I organized complimentary with compliments. But it really is the same thing that we said earlier. Like, there is no exhibition, there is no gallery, there is no reason to open the doors without the artists and the work that they make. Like, the work that these artists are making is phenomenal. And I think in conversation with each other, it's just like it's been a really heartening way to celebrate the summer solstice.
Totally.
Yeah.
One of the things that I was struck by was just like the variety of things here to take in. I think when I came into the house or the gallery space, I was like, okay, there's like stuff to see. And then I'm like, your team showing me like the map and talking to me about like what is available out here. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. There's a pond and there's a garden. There's a video in the barn. And then I'm like, I was kind of having trouble deciding like where I was going to go in the 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And when I got to the barn and started watching the video, I was like, I don't have enough time, because I was really engrossed in the video.
So good.
Was so interesting to me. Mm-hmm. And I think it was one of the reasons. I like how you talk about like these pieces, everything in the exhibition just being in conversation with each other. I think that's what struck me about like the guidebook or the thing that you sent me before, because one of the things that you wrote about that Leah's work talks about is like oral technologies.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've been really, since I started podcasting, one of the things that really got me into it was just the idea of like the oral narrative. I'm adopted, so like that's been a huge part of my journey over the last 6 years, is just understanding that experience and what that means and how my own lived experience fits into this larger diaspora of people and experiences. And one of my favorite books that I've read on the subject talks a lot about oral narrative and capturing that. And so when I sat down in the barn and started watching this video, I was like, oh, this is really interesting, because one of the things that I saw in the video that really was like ringing in my head was like, there's a text that pops up, observation like 7 maybe.
Yeah.
And it said that every picture has a blind spot. And I thought that was really interesting. And then as I was walking through here, I'm thinking about the things that are being said that we can hear and see and experience. Additionally, the things that maybe I'm missing from some of the pieces and things that I'm walking through. And again, not having nearly enough time to experience it all, I was wondering like what's being revealed in Coordinates of Belonging through this conversation of a bunch of different artists and a bunch of different forms of art. And on the flip side of that, like, what are we, I guess specifically from your perspective, because I think it's probably subjective, what are we not experiencing, seeing? What are we missing still?
Yeah, I think that's always true. Just period, always true.
Sure.
And I don't have experience really making music or like with other art forms, but I know with visual arts and speaking probably most anecdotally from my own experiences as an artist, so much of what art making is like in its purest form, like when artists are making work for themselves and not really thinking about, oh, I have to make this so someone will buy it or so someone will want to put it in a show. You're making that work because you need to make it, because it's a way for you to process something that you're not quite sure how to process any other way. It's the making of the work is in and of itself an uncovering, is a revealing. And sometimes you don't really know what that is until you're on the other side of the artwork, or maybe until you're on the other side of the exhibition that the work was produced for, and then I do really think that artwork is the kind of thing that like continues to uncover and reveal for artists like long after the work is finished. Like I can see when I look back on work that I made, even like when I was in college or 5 years out of college, I know that I'm still learning things about myself through having made that work 15, 20 years ago.
Sure.
And so a lot of that is always really personal and you said subjective, like distinct for the artist.
Yeah.
But I also think you are welcome. Come on in. Hi.
Hi.
You're good. That's okay.
You're all
They
good.
can help you. Yeah, you're good. Hey.
Hi.
I think that like it's different for the individual artworks and for the individual artists. I think when I was organizing the show, I was really drawn to work that felt more like instead of being really heavy-handed about like the negative side of the conversation that we've been having about fields and coordinates of belonging and all those things.
Yeah.
All this work feels so much more generative and hopeful. It's a reckoning, but also a manifesting.
Sure.
It's creating new worlds for yourself, encouraging people to get comfortable with visuals that they haven't seen before, concepts that they maybe haven't considered for artwork before. And I think that that's really, there's definitely like some commentary on things like lawns.
Sure.
But as a whole, I think that really in line with the inspiration of Leah's work, the philosophy that like you start where you are and you have agency and you can make have a hand in making the world that you want to be in and see and leave behind. And I think that that's like feels like a really common thread across all of these works. Definitely expressed in different media and like different imagery. But yeah, there's a lot happening here. It's
Yeah.
almost like the exhibition is its own field. Is
Totally.
like and I don't know, I think I would just encourage you. It sounds like you're excited to spend more time
I am.
here.
Totally.
I think it's the kind of show that really like just deeper time it's nice to be able to commit that. We're doing private appointments. The people who just
I
came
saw.
in
Yeah.
are here for a private appointment. And that means that they get to be here and sort of move through the spaces and find their way into and out of the artworks at their own pace. And that's like, you know, the experience that you maybe get if you're used to going to museums. But with galleries, openings are usually like the thing that everybody wants to do.
Sure.
And it's a great party.
Right.
We all love a great
place to be
party.
seen at and
Great-
get your picture taken.
Sure, yes. But it is rarely the best time to actually like see and sit with the artwork.
Yeah.
So that's I did not shy away from durational experiences at all.
Sure.
With
From 3 days to 1 month.
Well, and like with a video piece, it's 38 minutes.
Totally.
And then Shamira, there's an audio piece by Shamira, who's also local, installed in the one of the basement rooms under the studio across from us where we're sitting right now. It's also, I think, 38 minutes. Like you can sit and just listen to Shamira talk for 38 minutes. It's beautiful.
Interesting.
Yeah.
When do you know that this artist or this body of work or this piece makes sense for what we're trying to accomplish here?
I would say it goes back to curation and curatorial research. I'm always paying attention. It's a compulsion, right? I
Sure.
think anybody who is lucky enough to spend their time doing work that they really love, like they're just always working and thinking and looking. And so it's research, it's paying attention to artists, exhibitions, locally, not locally, that I'm drawn to for whatever reason. And just kind of like, you know, storing that in my body,
Yeah.
in a saved collection on Instagram, whatever. A spreadsheet sometimes if I'm really feeling analytical about it. But that just keeping track of things and then also paying attention to myself, like sitting with what do I want this exhibition to feel like for people? What do I want? What do I need right now? Where am I finding what I need and how can I share that with more people?
Yeah.
And so with coordinates of belonging, it really was just like, this is the guiding force that I want to be in relationship with when I'm organizing the show. And then trusting my gut in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Research. Once I have that framework in place, like revisiting the list of artists that I've worked with in the past, reaching out, extending the invitation and sharing the ideas that are informing the exhibition. I think your work makes sense in this context. If that feels right for you, if you like the idea of your work being in a group show that is about this, let's have a conversation about what pieces are available and what you feel like makes sense. Sometimes artists just know and that's great.
Yeah.
Other times it's more of a conversation and I can see things that maybe they're not seeing. A lot of times they see things that I'm not seeing.
Totally.
So we're all just kind of in it together. And I think that that's another one of the things that Leah talks about. One of the phrases that I have really like had on repeat for myself is yearning is research. Desire, being in relationship with what you want or need more of, is research. You're teaching yourself how to move in the directions that your body, your soul, your brain, that you need. And so I think that's how, I don't know, there's so many different ways to approach it, but for me, it's like being tethered to that yearning. Like, how does is your artwork hit me in a place that like I didn't know I needed to be hit?
Sure.
I'm going to pay attention to that. And then maybe somebody else needs to see it too.
Yeah. Well, I think, and again, short amount of time, very small sample size of my time here, but I feel like, especially in this conversation, I feel like this particular, and probably all of your exhibitions, everything that you've put together and curated over your time doing this work, are also expressions of yourself. And even though it's a bunch of other people doing the thing, part of you is like permeating through the entire exhibit as someone experiences it. And I feel like sometimes I was thinking about how I wanted to say that, because I was like, we started the conversation talking about like decentering the self. Yeah. And like, I didn't want to be like, well, I'm going to center you for a second. But I kind of am, because it's like, I think that's important to recognize. Yeah. And like, a lot of the through line of this conversation has been, how do we communicate with each other? Yeah. And so I really appreciate that. And I think something that I read, I may have this a little bit wrong, but like, one of the themes of Leah's work is like reclamation. So I'm interested in, and I think we've kind of got at the edges of it a little bit, but like, what is being reclaimed through Coordinates of Belonging? What do you hope is being reclaimed through it? And is there something that you're personally looking to reclaim through putting this show together?
That's a really good question. That's a really good question. I think Companion as a whole is an act of reclamation.
Okay.
For me. And I think with this exhibition specifically, it is, man, really, I want to see exhibitions of local artwork that aren't just like 2D pieces hung on the wall. That's my sculpture background, my own personal bias. And that's not an easy thing to install. It's certainly not an easy thing to try to sell usually. Sure. But so there's work in this show that are like large ceramic sculptures that we installed outside in the pond, like along the pathway. Pieces that, for Max, the artist, I think this is the first time that his work has been installed outdoors. He was very excited about that. So there's like a little bit of like reclaiming an embrace of possibility, maybe. Okay. Like reclaiming like let's do it. What we can. Yeah. Let's do it. And so let's build a temporary nice white wall in this really old rustic barn so we can project a 38-minute video piece in the barn. Let's do it. I think the people who have been really generous and let me be out here 2 summers in a row, that's also how they approach what's possible with this place. This feels like the right thing to do. Let's try to make it happen. Starting with yes. And I think that's an energy that isn't always present in
Sure.
organizing exhibitions.
Sure.
Like funding restrictions are very real. Time restrictions are very real. And so this, like, working out here, being able to put the show together with, I have an install team and I was able to hire some interns this summer. Like, how can a little bit more capacity on our side translate to bigger, better yeses with and for the artists? And then for viewing experiences that are not conventional, maybe a little bit more intimate. I think that, like, when I said that all of Companion is an act of reclamation, like, I want, like, intimacy in my art viewing experiences. Totally. I want to be in a gallery space and feel connected to the people in the room, to the artist, that I could ask any question and not feel silly. And so it's, yeah, just trying to do more of that, trying to reclaim some of that.
I love it. That was beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a good prompt.
We have, if you can believe it, been sitting here for almost 2 hours.
Past our time.
Anything else that you want to share or mention or tell the people before we wrap up?
The people.
The nebulous universe of people.
Yes. That feels like a lot of pressure for some reason.
Plugs are always difficult.
Like a lot of pressure.
Well, not even plugs, but just like, how do we wrap it up?
I think, it would really just be a restating what I hope is already kind of obvious, just an invitation to spend, if you can, if this makes it to people in time and you can spend time with us out here for the exhibition. We want to share it with people who are happy to receive it. And so that, an invitation to do that, but then just, like, more broadly, an invitation to seek out more unconventional art viewing experiences, and to find new ways to actually be in relationship with the artists that live in the same city as you. I just don't know what my life would be like without visual art, without my own relationship with it, and the artists that I learn so much from the artists that I get to work with. They remind me every day about what's important and the value in slowing down, and the places that your attention can rest easy and make a difference at the same time, which I think is, like, not always seeing those opportunities. So yeah, just an invitation to spend time with us, to spend time with the show, but to show up to non-institutional art spaces in town. We all need them desperately. It's hard work. And the more you show up and the more that you patron them in any way that you can, the more likely they are to stick around.
Great way to end it, but I am going to make you tell people where they can find more information, if they want to do a private viewing or tour, like, how do they set that up?
More direct invitation.
More direct invitation. No, but that was a beautiful, I mean, I love that invitation. Yeah. Like, people need something like that to then set up the direct thing.
Yeah. So Companion is on Instagram at This Is Companion. There's information about the exhibition, a couple different posts, but then links in the bio, as they usually are, to more information on the website, which is also thisiscompanion.com. The first page you go to is the exhibition landing page for Coordinates of Belonging. There are links to get tickets for viewing hours. We have open viewing appointments Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from noon to 5. We also have programs through the run of the exhibition. Tomorrow we have Jim McKenna, an arborist, coming to talk about the past, present, and future of the American chestnut,
Nice.
which is so niche and so good. He has such a great personality. And then a couple more guided garden walks with Merritt Chase. Chris Merritt is with a principal with Merritt Chase. He's the landscape architect who has been the primary point of contact for working on this property, revisioning the orchard, the meadow. I think we have one of those on Sunday and again in July. And then we have a couple of workshops that are artist run before the end of the month. So if you're more into communal experiences, you don't have to come out here and meander through the exhibition alone. There are ways to sink your teeth in that are, more shared experiences.
Like we've been talking about for this entire conversation, like you've made something not only beautiful, but accessible for people who are interested. And again, you don't have to be out here alone.
Yeah, no, that's kind of the opposite of the whole idea.
There's someone here to walk alongside you if you need it.
Mm-hmm. Happy to be that person.
Yeah.
If I can be. Yeah.
Braydee, thank you so much.
This was great. Thanks.